Hi there. Welcome to Fridays with the Ranger. I'm Ranger Shannon with Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail in Omaha, Nebraska, and thanks so much for joining me. It's winter here, which means it's getting pretty cold in Nebraska, so I thought I'd cozy up in my living room on my couch for today's video. I have some throw pillows on both sides of me. I also have a plush of Lewis's dog, Seaman. Behind me, I have a gallery wall with various pieces of framed art and wall art. And then also just on the corner, I have a standing lamp to the right. In front of me, I have my coffee table, which has a strawberry tablecloth on it. I have some different art supplies. I also have 3 horse figurines. And wait a minute, Fig, is that you? Hey there, Fig. It's so nice to have you joining us today. Fig's my pet Syrian hamster and also an honorary ranger. Only, wait a minute, she doesn't quite look like a hamster today. She's wearing a horse costume, actually. Fig, is that in honor of today's video? What a clever idea. As you may have already guessed, today's video topic will be horses. We're going to be discussing how horses were used during the Lewis and Clark expedition of 1803 to 1806, and we'll even be doing a fun craft together to make your own horse puppet. It's going to be a great time. Here's an example of what your horse puppet might look like after we're finished with our craft today. I've used a brown paper lunch bag. I put my hand through the opening, and then I use the bottom of the lunch bag with the flap that sticks out to do my horse's face and mouth. I cut out construction paper ears, hair, eyes, a nose, and mouth, and glued them to the brown paper bag with a glue stick. And then I just decorated my horse with black spots using a crayon. Pretty cool, huh? Let's get into supplies so we can start putting our puppets together. The supplies we'll need to make our puppet are 2 brown paper lunch bags, paper. For example, I have 3 pieces of construction paper. One is red, black, and the other is tan. A pencil. I have a mechanical pencil here, but any type of pencil is fine. Scissors. Please remember to ask an adult for permission before using scissors and getting help so you don't hurt yourself. Glue or tape. And coloring supplies. I have 3 markers, 3 pencils, and 3 crayons, each in pink, green, and blue. However, you can use any color you want and any type of supplies to color, including paint. Make sure to ask an adult for permission before using anything and get help with the project when you need it. Now that we have our supplies, are you ready to begin? Let's start by decorating the body of our horse puppets. For my puppet, I'm actually going to use this little Christmas tree cookie cutter since it's close to Christmas and all. And I'm just going to trace out little trees with my pencil all over the body of my puppet. Then I'm going to outline those with green marker and color them in with green crayon. Now remember, you don't have to copy my puppet. It's your puppet, so you can decorate it however you want. And again, you can use any type of supplies to decorate. You could use stickers, stamps, felt, whatever you have laying around. It's your puppet, so make it unique. While we're decorating all together, let's discuss horses and the Lewis and Clark expedition. In August 1805, the Corps of Discovery reached the edge of what is now known as the Montana Plains, creeping towards the daunting peaks of the Rocky Mountains. The crew anxiously searched the area and waited for the Lemhi Shoshone, an American Indian tribe living in the mountains. The Shoshone were considered excellent horsemen, and some still are today. At the time, they were preparing for another buffalo hunting trip down in the grassy plains, their former home, which they've been pushed out of by their enemy tribes, the Hidatsa, Atsina, and Blackfeet. The Corps planned to give them trinkets and gifts in order to acquire enough horses for their entire crew and supplies to cross the rocky terrain safely that lay ahead. I finished decorating and drawing the Christmas trees on my bag. However, there's a lot of empty space here, so I decided I want to take my blue marker and draw some crisscross stars just to fill up the space a little bit. While I'm doing that and you're still decorating, let's get back into our story. The crew grew worried after several days of searching the area and no luck finding the Shoshone. Finally, on August 13th, Lewis and 3 of his men stumbled upon a group of Shoshone women gathering food. Unfortunately, they didn't have their trusted Shoshone translator with them, Sacagawea, otherwise known as Sacagawea, the Shoshone girl who'd been kidnapped years earlier by the Hidatsa and later bought and forced into marriage with Tusa Charbonneau, the French-Canadian fur trapper and Corps of Discovery member from Quebec. Since they couldn't communicate with the women, Lewis laid down his gun, gave them trinkets, and painted their faces with vermilion, a powdered mineral that produced a vibrant scarlet color, which was thought to be a symbol of peace. How's everyone's decorating coming along? Here's the finished body for my horse. So I did my Christmas trees. I have 2 on one side and 3 on the other, and I just colored them in with a light green. And then in the spaces around the trees, I did my blue stars with a blue marker. Now, it's okay if you're not finished decorating yet. You'll have time to finish up later. I just want to explain how to do the next step, so that way we can all do it together. Our next step is to take our pencil and draw out our horse's nose and ears on our second brown paper lunch bag. Once we're done with that, we'll take our pencil and use our extra paper to draw out any features we want to put on our horse. So this could be our horse's eyes, our horse's hair, nostrils, and a mouth. We could also draw any accessories we'd like to put on our horse. Let's say we want to do arms or a dress or any sort of fashion accessories, whatever you want. You can make your horse a unicorn and do a horn. It's completely up to you, so get creative. Again, if you wanted to, you could also draw these features and accessories directly on your horse with your coloring supplies. If you have any decorative objects that you brought to decorate your horse, you could also use those. I'm going to just explain how I did this, but again, you can try this any way you'd like. So to make my nose, what I did was I took my second brown lunch bag and I faced it where the opening is at the top and the bottom is at the edge. And then it's just facing vertically. Now at the top where the opening is, right near the edge, I'm gonna just go about 1 inch down and then 1 inch across and draw a straight line across. I'll do this on both sides. And then in the empty gap in the middle, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sort of a long skinny arch. I'm also gonna make it kind of get bigger as it gets towards the bottom. And I'm going to leave about 1 inch of room where the flap of my bag would start. So once you're done with that, then what you're going to do is you can trace out the ears. So I'm going to use that empty space that I left towards where the flap is and the nose and at the side of the bag. So I can turn my bag horizontally, and at the edge, that's where I could draw my ears. And I also just made them round, and they're sort of a long skinny arch, about 1 inch wide and about 1.5 inches tall. Now that I'm done with the nose and the ears, I'm going to take my extra paper and draw out any other features I want to cut out and glue on my horse. So I actually just decided the only other feature I'm going to do on this puppet is the mouth. So in order to make it even with the nose I drew for my horse, I'm going to put it so it's covering about halfway of the nose that I traced. And then I'm just going to use that as a model to know where to make it stop so it doesn't go over. But again, it's your puppet, so you could make it go over, and then your horse could have kind of a long tongue sticking out, which would be cute. I want to only draw this once. So what I did was I took my paper horizontally, and then I just folded it down the middle. And so that way it's kind of like a tall, skinny card. And that way I'll only have to do this one time. So I put my card vertically, and then starting in the middle is where I'm going to start my mouth. And I'm lining it up here just to make sure it's even. And I'm just going to do something similar where I'm going to draw a long, skinny arch. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller than the horse's nose. Now, while you're drawing out more features and accessories to put on your horse, I'm going to go back to our story. a group of 60 Shoshones arrived where Lewis's crew and the women were. After the women convinced the group that the men were friendly and didn't intend to cause harm, Lewis's crew gave them even more trinkets and gifts, including an American flag. The principal chief, Kamehameha, which means one who never walks, welcomed the men as guests to their tribe, giving them food to eat and providing them with teepees to sleep in. After Kamehameha informed the men of the treacherous journey that lay before them, which included crossing the Bitterroots, a jagged mountain range that lies along the border of Montana and Idaho, Lewis convinced him and a group of warriors to travel along to meet Clark's camp so they could negotiate for horses. After they arrived at Clark's camp, they began a translation chain with Sacagawea to express their eagerness to purchase horses from the tribe. Fortunately, just as negotiations began, an incredible coincidence occurred. Sacagawea realized that Kamehameha was her long-lost brother. They had an emotional reunion, and Kamehameha agreed to sell them all the horses they would need to complete the journey west. In return, Lewis promised that once the Corps returned east, and I quote, white men would come to them with a number of guns and any other article necessary to their defense and comfort, end quote. Unfortunately, Lewis's promise was never fulfilled, and as white settlers and traders moved into Shoshone territory in the late 1800s, their home was reduced to a meager 72 square miles of arid, dry landscape, which was difficult to farm and survive on. The tribe had been promised money, tools, and weapons to move there, but they never received any of these things. Now that we've finished drawing our features and accessories for our puppet, we're just going to take our pair of scissors and cut them out and then glue them to our puppet. Now again, make sure you ask an adult for permission before using scissors and get assistance if you need to. You will notice when cutting out the nose that it's still attached here on the sides. So what you're going to do is you're just going to cut on both edges, on both sides, so that way you can separate both parts of your horse's nose. Once everything's cut out, your nose should look like this, two separate parts. And then I have here two separate ears and two separate mouths. And you probably have lots of other accessories and features that you cut out. So once those are done, we're just going to glue them on or tape them. I'm going to use my glue stick. And actually, I already finished my horse puppet, but I don't want to show you yet. So I'm just going to explain how you do this. So what you would do is you would take your glue stick or tape, and on one side of one of the nose pieces, I would just put glue across a straight line that I made at the top. And then what I would do to make the front is on my brown paper bag with the flap, I would just glue it directly on the front right at the edge so that it lines up. So that's how it would be glued on. And then I would do the same. I would take my second piece and I would put glue on the line on the top all the way to the edge. And then since this is going to be the bottom, I would take this and I would pick up the flap and then I would put this right at the edge. So it would just be right at the edge where the flap is. And then completed, you would have one on the top and one on the bottom. And that's how you would have your mouth, because this is where your horse would talk with the flap. So once those are glued on, you just glue on anything else. So I have ears, you can put them wherever you want. And then with the mouthpieces, you could just glue them on the inside of the mouth and under the top. So this would go under the top of the nose, and then this would go on the front of the bottom piece to make it look like a mouth. And then you could just glue on any of your other accessories. While you're doing that, I'm going to finish up our story. The Corps was so lucky to have such a positive and generous experience with the Shoshones that they named the place where it all happened Camp Fortunate, located in present-day Dillon, Montana. Without the help of the Shoshones, they most likely wouldn't have survived the journey west, and the Lewis and Clark expedition wouldn't be the widely celebrated event that it is today in our nation's history. Unfortunately, in American Indian history, this place is remembered less fondly. Sadly, it symbolizes the American expansion across the West, an event in which the federal government pushed many tribes off their homelands and into squalid areas with few benefits. often thousands of miles away from their original homes. The tribes were either forced to do so or offered generous benefits, often of which were never fulfilled. These events are a dark time in American history, and it's important for us to remember the sacrifices others were pushed to make that led to the lives that we live today. I know it can be sad to remember dark parts of American history, but it's important that we do so in order to learn from our mistakes in the past and do better in the future. For today's question, I want you to think about an experience in which someone sacrificed something to help you. What did that do for you, and how did it help you? And how do you think it might have turned out if the person hadn't helped you? You can write your answers in the comments below or let us know on Facebook or Instagram. Did you finish up with your puppet? Hold them up to the screen. Let me see. Wow, those look incredible. You are all so talented. Now, here's what I came up with for my puppet. So I also added some little arms here, and I folded them in kind of a crinkle to give my horse these kind of crazy crinkle arms. I drew on the eyes just with my blue marker, and I also drew the nostrils with my peach marker and then colored in with peach crayon. And I also drew hair with my green marker here. I added kind of these little hearts on the ears, which I drew with my peach marker and then colored them in with peach crayon. And then I cut out a bow on the top and put that over one of the ears. So the inside of the mouth just has the red underneath. So when I put my hand in is how I can make my horse talk. Those were a lot of fun, huh? I hope you enjoyed doing this craft with me. Thanks for tuning in to another Fridays with a Ranger. I know this was a long one, but I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for another episode of Fridays with a Ranger soon. Take care and stay safe. Bye.